Thank you, President Patty. Before I knew our guest speaker, I met her grandmother, Roberta Johnson. We struck up a conversation while we were eating ice cream at Andy's. You remember, don't you? And became close friends. Both grandmother and granddaughter have a strong faith in God. And I mention this because you don't often get to see behind the curtain of a professional resume. It was a privilege and pleasure to witness our speaker's maturity and character as one of our club's first Ukulano scholars. And as President Patty mentioned, it's great to have Karen Ukulano with us today. Even then, our guest speaker was a woman comfortable in her own skin, confident in her identity, consistent in setting the integrity bar high and living it. Even now, she makes it all look easy. Shavonnia Corbin-Johnson currently works for the White House as the advisor and assistant to the director for the Office of Management and Budget, Shaun Donovan. Shavonnia began as the assistant to the deputy director of the OMB, and she tells me that it's a wonderful experience because it gives her a broad, generalist view of things. But now listen to this. While she's working full-time in the White House, she's also pursuing at night a master's degree full-time in international relations with a focus on India, Pakistan, and the Middle East. Before her time at the White House, she worked for U.S. Senator Robert P. Casey, Jr. from 2014 to 2015. Shavonnia, you may recall, graduated from Georgetown University in May 2014, becoming the first person in her family to go to college. While at Georgetown, she interned for the Embassy of France and Senator Casey, Jr. You kind of have this habit of doing two full-time things at once, don't you? You're young, God bless you. She worked as part-time as at Georgetown University Law Center as a clerkship assistant and served as a French tutor. Shavonnia learned French and solidified her curiosity in different cultures and international politics while living in Strasbourg, France from June 2009, June 2010 as a foreign exchange student sponsored by the York Rotary Club. Shavonnia loves languages and different cultures and hopes to promote a positive U.S. image abroad. She speaks fluent French, intermediate Spanish, que bueno, beginner Arabic and Hindi, and hopes to eventually become fluent in 9 languages. Her presentation today is from a Foster house to the White House. Fellow Rotarians and guests, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Shavonnia Corbin-Johnson.
Hi everyone. I want to thank you all for having me out today. Thank you to the Rotary for the invitation. Thank you for Michelle for the countless emails because it took me a while to respond back. So thank you for your persistence. My grandmother's here today. I want to thank her. Also, most of the 44 guests here are invited by my grandmother. So thank you all for putting up with her and for coming out also. Okay. Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Taoism. The World Religions was my favorite book growing up. I came from a strong Christian family. My grandparents who raised me for my childhood were retired missionaries. I remember sitting on their couch, listening to the stories of the many countries they had visited and the people and experiences they had encountered. While I'm sure they thought these stories were uninteresting to me, I took these stories to heart and continued to fuel my yearning to travel, printing out pictures of different countries, hanging them on my wall, and continuing my weekly reading of this 200-page book on over 20 world religions, because we couldn't afford to travel. My curiosity to learn about cultures, my desire to teach people about American culture was a small and powerful seed, but a seed of which I was unaware of at the time. Before knowing of my grandparents, I spent my early years with the foster family here in New York. We lived in a 2-bedroom house. The foster parents had 1 room, and myself and the 3 other girls they were watching shared a queen-size bed in the 2nd room. Sharing 1 bed, you cannot help but grow and become very close to each other, literally. But we remain in contact today. They're all married with kids here in New York. I only experienced and felt love for my foster family, yet I grew up feeling different. All of our friends and neighbors were also fighting to survive on the poverty line. They all had children of the same age, so outwardly I never looked out of place, but I felt it. And it was painful to feel this as a child, yet I never knew why I felt out of place. But now I can pinpoint the difference. I had a curiosity and a fervor to learn about things and people I didn't know. I did not see the same passion in my inner circle. Everyone was content with knowing who they knew and had no desire to discover other parts of America, let alone the world. And I thought to myself, for lack of better words, maybe I'm weird. And so I tried to suppress this desire. However, one day in kindergarten, we had to write a few sentences describing what we wanted to be when we grew up and why. There were a lot of doctors, teachers, veterinarians in the crowd. And then it was my turn. I stood at my desk, knees knocking, thinking, should I change my answer to paleontologist? Yes, I knew that was at the time, smart kindergartner. Or should I continue with my planned speech? I decided to continue. My name is Shavonnia, and I want to be president, said kindergarten Shavonnia. Being president would be fun, I said. Being president, I want to show the world how great America is. I want to show America how great the world is. I want all people to like other people. Unknowingly, I, in a way, was already embracing a mission statement I would soon come well to know and to cherish, service above self. By 1st grade, majority of my custody shifted from my foster family to my grandparents, and I would spend most of my days with them. Every Christmas from when I was 8 years old to 18, I tried to keep hope alive. I asked my grandmother for the same gift, for tickets to France, because some of you might remember this movie, but it was Mary-Kate and Ashley's movie, Passport to Paris, on VHS. And I made my grandma watch that movie almost every weekend from 8 to 18 years old. But every year at Christmas, she would give me the same response. You know I would love to, honey, but I can't afford it. How can I become president and meet other people if I can't afford to travel? So I shifted my dream, I guess, to a more realistic goal, I thought. My new goal in life was now to become a manager, a very good manager, but a manager of the Ross clothing store here in New York. And while this is a respectable job, this is what I wanted my final career to be. I didn't even wish for a larger corporation like Target or Walmart, because I honestly didn't think I could achieve it. But for some reason, I just knew this wasn't right for me. My grandparents grew up in segregated America, and while they only had a formal high school education, they found their own education and were conscious of the world, and they were politically savvy. My grandmother, who is still living and with me today, is still like this today. My grandparents knew what was happening and where. They knew political procedures, and they stressed greatly the importance of getting involved in politics. My favorite example of her passion and knowledge of politics would happen to be May 24th, 2009. I know this day precisely. Now imagine being in a deep sleep. A beautiful, deep REM sleep. You know, the great one where you know I see some head nods right there, yeah. Those deep sleeps. And then all of a sudden at 8 a.m. you hear, woo! Good morning, wake up! What is it, Grandma? I responded. Here it is, she said, frantically waving this piece of white paper in the air. She sat on my side of my bed and wouldn't leave and just kept staring at me. So eventually I got up, slowly opened my eyes and filled out this piece of paper. She excitedly grabbed the completed form from me and pranced, yes, pranced, to the door. She stopped suddenly at the door, faced me, and said, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Happy 18th birthday." "Ha, thanks, Grandma," I sarcastically replied. And back to sleep went this newly registered voter. Politics and people, all people, were my passions. I was blessed with an amazing scholarship and opportunity to attend New York Country Day School from my 6th grade to my senior years because of my high math scores. Yet at York Country Day School and these classes I would take at York College, I was exposed to language courses, and I loved these courses the most. I took Spanish as my main language and Italian and French just for fun. By junior year of high school, my Spanish was actually better than my English. My professor had no more classes to teach me, so she allowed me to work downtown here in New York at a Spanish center, helping newly immigrated families to America. I also served as the TA for a lot of elementary school classes at York Country Day School. I love this. I actually had never been happier. The seed I had inside to learn more about people and to teach people about America was no longer suppressed. Nevertheless, graduation time was fast approaching. I never dreamt of going to college. No one in my family had gone to college, and in all honesty, I didn't know what college was besides the college basketball and football games I would see on TV. I was telling my best friend from YCDS, and still today, we actually live across the street from each other in DC, it's great, that I wasn't going to go to college. The next day, I got this call from a woman named Marcia Everton Stover, the mother of my best friend. I answered, "Hello." She said, "Shavonnia, I will coach you through the process, but you're going to college." Click. Oh. Okay. So after a long but rewarding process, I selected Georgetown University. I was mostly excited about college because I wanted to get a chance to meet new Americans and international people, but I still wanted gravely to go overseas. I remember laying on my bed, staring at the pictures of DC, Barcelona, Vienna, Paris, and China on my wall, and just saying, "God, please," with a deep and earnest passion just to see one of these places, any of these places. The next day, the very next day, I received a call from a man, part of a group I'm not sure you guys know about, called the Rotary. His name was Tom Barton. There he is. He said, Tom Barton. "So I've been volunteering at the Jewish Community Center for the past 6 summers, and one of the mothers who worked there was also a member of the Rotary, and I guess she told Tom about me. The next thing I know, Tom says, 'You would make a great overseas youth ambassador. Are you interested?' I honestly thought this call was a joke. I was just praying about my passion last night, and then literally the next day, this man out of the blue calls me and asks me if I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested, of course. But then reality hit. Of course I was interested, but I didn't have money to sustain myself, to go overseas or to even live while I was overseas. Ultimately, I received the Michael Ucolano Scholarship and was able to participate in the youth exchange program. I want to thank the Rotary, the Ucolano family, and all who donated to the scholarship for the amazing experience one of the amazing experiences of my life. While you always do not get a chance to see the impact of your work, I am here today. And because of your generosity, you all have greatly contributed to my success, and I do not take your work lightly. So I want to thank you. Oh, very happy. Yet little did I know at that time that the Rotary would become the water I needed to grow my dormant seed. I remember standing at the airport on my departure day and my grandmother saying, "I can't believe it. The gift that you asked me for and prayed for 10 years has suddenly come to fruition." We hugged, and off I went on my gap year, it's called. But it wasn't a gap year for me. It was a year that filled a gap. I was excited, I was terrified, but I was determined. And off to France I went. My nice Rotary jacket. Oh, God. I still have this. Let's see if it still fits, guys. There we go. Woo, beautiful. I wanted to learn French, but I also wanted to learn French culture. They're interchangeable in my eyes, and that's what I did. In my district were 25 other exchange students. Only 3 of us were determined to learn French, and only 3 of us learned French. But out of all 25, only one of us, only myself, learned about the French. The 1 year abroad helped me realize that I was actually not weird at all. I actually had a gift, an appreciation for all people, and a willingness to promote, understand, and to build relationships with people of different cultures and people in different countries. While in France, I was able to meet a lot of international friends, all the pins right here, and we embarked on a month-long bus trip to London, Lyon, France, Monaco, Pisa, Venice, and Florence, Italy, Geneva, Switzerland, Berlin, Frankfurt, and even Barcelona, Vienna, Austria, and Paris. 3 of the pictures on my childhood wall. Importantly, lessons I learned and still retain from studying abroad. 1, I compare any dish with a great French wine. No, but in all honesty, 3 things I really learned were flexibility. I lived with 3 host families, and I had to have a great relationship, and I still have a great relationship and keep in contact with them. I had to learn to compromise and to be flexible in ways I never had to before. Host families are a necessary part of the experience, and yet they have the most positive or negative impact on you. Secondly, I learned openness. In France, I met my first Arabs, my first Muslims, Africans, Turks, Canadians, Australians, Zoroastrian, and Taiwanese, not Chinese. And while I categorize and label now so you're aware of who I'm talking about, in my mind I do not label. And in France, I learned to shatter many stereotypes I would hear about other groups from the media and to make my own informed decisions about individual people, not a group. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, I learned about hard work and embarrassment. I went to France knowing 4 solid phrases of French. Hi, my name is Shavonnia. I'm American. Obama's my president. I like cheese. And while I was able to at least order the most delicious cheeses in France, I really wanted to learn the language in full, and so I learned to put embarrassment aside, and I went to speak with French students, not only the other exchange students. I was the only exchange student who did homework in class, and sadly, I would turn in only 6 sentences completed at the beginning of my year, but by the end of my year, I could easily write 6 pages. It was in France that I learned if you are passionate about something, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And while I ended my exchange on a personal best in terms of excelling in language and culture, it was then I realized how much I impacted my communities, both French and international. I ended the year being elected class representative and voted most popular with a page dedicated to myself doing this in the yearbook. I was respected by my professors, admired by my host families, and was the first exchange student to sing and speak, both in French, at the annual France Rotary Conference in front of nearly 1,000 people. Yet the learning never stops. My exchange was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and in that time I've had numerous conversations with my French friends and my exchange friends. I've actually inspired one of my French friends to come to the US, and he just graduated in May from Columbia for his master's. Also, my exchange friends who I met, I'm actually going to Wisconsin this weekend for one of their birthdays, and my friend from India, she came to visit me about 2 years ago. The year abroad was exactly what I needed to survive Georgetown. As a first-generation college student with limited travel inside the US, being abroad armed me with a maturity and open-mindedness and an ambitious attitude many of my fellow freshmen did not have. My 3 lessons from France helped me with my tenure at Georgetown. Flexibility, the willingness to take and study classes that may not be of your interest, but that can also help you. Also the flexibility to interact with people of varying social classes. Openness. During my time at Georgetown, I was the member of the Black Student Alliance, South Asian, Latin American, Vietnamese, Asian American, Japanese, Muslim, Protestant, sang in the gospel choir, and I served on the board of many of these organizations. I was even a choreographer for an Indian dance group and was the co-founder of the Arab Society of Georgetown, where in our 3rd event, we raised over $5,000 to send for Syrian refugees. 9 times out of 10, I was the only person who did not identify with a certain cultural or ethnic group, but it didn't bother me. And now proudly, I have one of the most diverse group of friends. And thirdly, embarrassment and hard work. My year overseas allowed me to secure an internship at the Embassy of France for a year, and my ambitious attitude also allowed a 19-year-old girl to walk up to her US Senator, Robert P. Casey, and say, "Hi, Senator, you don't know me, but I'm a proud Pennsylvanian, a first-generation college student, and I would love to intern for you." He was kind of shocked. But he shook my hand anyways and smiled and said, "Here, go talk to my chief of staff. I like your ambition." I honestly didn't actually know what an internship was. I just heard that word around campus, and so I said, I'm going to give it a try. But that embarrassment led to an unforgettable internship. After graduating Georgetown, I was having a hard time finding a job, so I went overseas to visit my one international exchange friend who I met in France. So I went to India to visit her, and then I traveled to Egypt, Dubai, and Qatar. My hard work during my internship with Senator Casey stayed on his mind and stayed on his chief of staff's mind. And next thing I know, right when I get back from Qatar, I have this phone call saying, "Hi, this is Jim Brown from Senator Casey's office. You were a good intern. Do you want to come work for us?" So the hard work I showed when interning, the hard work I learned in France paid off to an unforeseen job, and ultimately at my job at the White House, because it was someone in his office who recommended to hire me there. The Rotary was my first introduction to service above self, the most selfless form of public service, and I fully understand what it means. At the White House, I serve as the advisor and assistant to Shaun, Donovan, the director for the Office of Management and Budget. There are many days when we work 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., commonly until 9 p.m. or even 11 p.m. It can be frustrating knowing you don't have time to see friends, talk to family, or even harder when you're trying to do your full-time master's degree, as I am. But on those taxing days, I like to take a lonely walk through the colonnade, around the complex. You may have seen a lot of pictures of President Obama doing this. We all actually do this. It's fun. I look at the pictures of him hanging on the West Wing wall. I smile at his smile, and I sympathize with the pictures of his pain. But then I go back to work, and I remember the thing I commonly hear in the White House and in my office: think of the people. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, you know what it's like to have a loved one. You know that you want them to be taken care of and to be protected. In my public service life, my loved one is America, and my loved one is the world. Different groups have different ways of expressing their affection, but selfless service is something I learned through the Rotary, and selfless service is the underlying key to all. With the hope of protecting my fellow citizens, and with a desire to promote peace and conflict resolution, as I do during my master's, my Rotary year overseas and my declared mission statement in kindergarten put into focus my desire to live my life as an ambassador for the U.S., whether domestic or abroad. And for that, I'm thankful to God, to my grandmother, and to the Rotary, and countless others. I would never have dreamed I'd be able to go from a foster house to the White House. Thank you, guys.